We've been talking about this morning bridging the gap, the wealth gap. And your wealth gap is the gap that exists between you and your wealth. And it's not money. Money is just one of the results of wealth. Wealth is your ability to create value for someone other than yourself. Dr. Benjamin Hardy and I, we've had a great conversation this morning. We've had a great conversation with the people in the audience. And so I was sharing with the audience, studio audience, before we came back, that in my office, Dr. Ben asked me, Myron, what's the crux of what you do? And I said, well, what do you mean by crux? And he told me, like, what's the main thing that you do that helps people have this transformation? And I said, I introduce people to themselves. What I mean by that is most people don't know who they are based on whose they are. And most people, and I think I may have said this to you in my office, most people believe in their identity more than they believe in their identity. And their identity is all the things, all the people, all told you are not all your life, right? You're not smart enough, you're not tall enough, you're not handsome enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not athletic enough, you're not talented enough, you can't sing good enough, you can't dance good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not, who you are is not enough. We've heard that message from parents, siblings, teachers, neighbors, so-called friends, bosses, and so most people are either buying into the identity or fighting against the identity, which is still not their identity because it's an away from, right? And so, or an avoidance goal, right? So they're attempting to prove that they're not. So what they do, what most people do because they think, I'm more than they think I am, I'll prove it to them. The fact that you're attempting to prove it to them literally proves that you think you really are who they said you are, or who you aren't, that you aren't who they said you aren't. And so because you're basing your identity on something they told you that you're not or that you are, they're still the foundation. So you've already messed up. And so so most people move away from their identity and they move into what I call their my-identity. And their my-identity is a fake identity that they create that's not as big as their identity, but they feel like it's bigger than their identity. And at least it makes them feel good, right? And so they go around posturing and pretending and attempting to make people feel something or believe something is true about them that they don't even believe themselves. My definition of freedom is I've got nothing to hide, I've got nothing to lose, I've got nothing to gain, I've got nothing to prove. Then and only then am I free. If you could realize that nothing's missing except your awareness of what's there. Most people think they lack access to abundance, but they actually lack awareness of the access they already have. So, this is why when I coach people, oftentimes, when I coach people, like one conversation and they go out and produce a result they've never produced before in their lives. Because all I'm doing is showing them what I can see that's real about them that they can't see yet. Does that make sense? And so hopefully during this conversation with Dr. Ben and I, what will happen for those of you who are watching on YouTube is you will get at least introduced to a part of yourself, if not all of yourself, so you can step into your true identity, stop reacting to the lie-identity people gave you, stop creating a fake my-identity, and get your true identity from the ultimate identity, which is who? The I am that I am. I always like to tell people, you can't even tell me you're an atheist without telling me who God is first. If you say, I am an atheist, you gave me God's name before you told me who you are. And so when you get your identity from the ultimate identity, then and only then do you know who you are based on whose you are. Like people say, you think you're so great. I don't think I'm great. I know I'm great. But I don't know I'm great because of me. I know I'm great because I'm made in the image of God who's great. I'm not great because of myself. I'm great in spite of myself. But so are you. And see, when somebody recognizes the greatness in you, you know what you do? You resist it. You say, no, stop. No, cut it out. And if somebody can't give you a compliment, how could you possibly expect them to give you compensation? You can't even receive a compliment. You know what? One of the biggest problems with God-fearing, church-going, Bible-believing people is oftentimes we're great givers, but we're horrible receivers. And if you spend your whole life being a great giver and a horrible receiver, eventually you're going to run out of stuff to give. So I'm done.
No, you're not. I think it would be, not to go into specific details, but when we were talking in the break about sometimes a pathway can get you where you want to go, but it's the wrong path.
100%.
Give some thoughts on that.
I do.
That was a strong one.
I do. I have a lot of thoughts on that. Like a lot of times what people will do, they will acceptable because they think good enough is good enough, and then they will miss excellence because they accepted acceptable. Just because a path can get you to where you'd like to go doesn't mean it's a path you could take, that you should take. There are some paths, there's so many, I have more opportunities brought to me than you can imagine. And they're not all bad. Some of them are really, really good. They're just not my path. And I don't say no because it's not a good opportunity. I say it's no because it's not a good opportunity for me. Some opportunities that are good opportunities aren't even worth me looking at. Why? Because looking at them is a distraction. And it does not get me closer to my desired outcome. Not even close. So you're going to be brought, like once you remember I said disruption always follows intention? Once you decide on what that goal for your future is, and you start designing your present based on that future, you're going to be brought opportunities to tempt you to take a lesser path, a path to a lesser goal. Your ability to say no to a good opportunity so that you have room to say yes to a great opportunity is going to determine the trajectory of your path. What do you think, Doc? I feel like you're looking at me like I was looking at you earlier.
I gotta go. No, what happened? So, going a different direction than I was thinking, but in a good way. When you get really committed to a big future, and when you start getting on that path, it's amazing the opportunities that will start to come. Mm-hmm. Right now in what we're doing, we are getting ready to rock it, and some insanely compelling paths.
Hold a little closer.
Yeah, some insanely compelling paths are presenting themselves to me, and I see them as, of course, some of them you look at and you consider, could this help? But most of them are traps. Most of them are really
Such a good word, traps.
Yeah, trap or test. But I kind of like the word trap.
I love that word.
Yeah, they're traps. And because they are a clear path to a lesser goal. And when you do that, you begin to contradict who you really are and who you can really be. You settle for...
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Yeah, you settle for a lesser goal. And any time you do that and you're below the floor, you're contradicting who you know you can be, and then you're weak. And so I was asking Myron about a situation that I'm considering, and he, this is why he was talking about a beautiful thing, which he's saying, that path could possibly get you where you're trying to go, but if it doesn't align with
your brand, and if it gives you the desired outcome, but it mars your brand, it wasn't worth it. You might have 4 businesses in your life. You might have 10. You might have. Hopefully, you only have one spouse. Hopefully, right, in your life. But maybe you'll have more. Some people have more. It's okay. There's no judgment. I'm just saying. Like you'll have one mother, one father. But you'll have all these opportunities for all these things, but you get one name. It has to last you your whole life. And to say yes to something that would tarnish your name so you can make some money? For money? for some money. And now I feel like Allen Iverson. You talking about practice? Okay, right, right. So you would tarnish your name for some money? You don't understand the value of your brand. What is a name? What is a brand? A brand is a name that reminds you of a story. If you want your brand, your story, like your name, to remind people of a story that adds value to their brand, you cannot afford to attach to anything that reduces your brand equity, regardless of how much money it can make you. There are people who offer me opportunities to do stuff all the time. I say no. Or I give them my pain in the tush tax. Say, what's a pain in the tush tax? That's when you don't want to do it, so you charge them so much they say no. Right? No. Right? Anyway, so like there are people, like how I align myself with people depends on the arena in which I'm aligning myself. Because there are people, for instance, there are people who, if they invited me to speak at their conference, I would speak. But that same person, if they asked me to write a book with them, it'd be a hard no. Right? Because it's different. If I'm speaking at their conference, I'm impacting their people. But if I'm writing a book with them, now there's a potential that they're going to negatively impact the people who follow me. And so I have to be very discerning and very decisive about who I allow to attach their name to my name. Does that make sense? And so do you. That's only if you value your brand. Remember what happened? Jesus was going. I don't remember where he was going, but he came across this man who was feeding swine, and they were filled with the swine. The swine were filled with demons, and they said, "We know who you are. Did you come to torment us before their time?" And he did not allow them to speak. Why? Because Jesus didn't want a testimony that came from swine that were filled with devils. See, all good testimonies aren't good. All brand elevation is not good brand elevation. Sometimes you have to say no to it because of where it's coming from. So anyway.
Gotta have a clean high floor.
Gotta have a very high floor, very clean
high
floor. Yes. And you can't have a high floor if you don't know who you are. You can't have a high floor if you don't know who you are. If you're still out in the wilderness of figuring out your who am I-ness, you don't but it might make me $60,000. Who cares? $60,000? $60 million. It don't matter. It's just money. So, anyway, that's what I think.
It's huge. It's huge. What do we do now?
Well, you know what we could do? We could open it up for some more questions if you want to, because I think we got some people who got some questions. We'll take this young lady over here, Montrella. I didn't want to mess it up. So if we can get Montrella a mic. It's coming to you, sister. It's coming to you.
By the way, these are what are called galley copies. The book comes out at the end of this month.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this while we're talking about the book before Montrella asks her question. Do you have a digital audio version that you can give to the people watching on YouTube?
Yes.
Can you do that really quickly?
Yeah, so it's scaling.com/audiobook.
Scaling.com/audiobook.
Free audiobook.
Free audiobook.
Our publisher gave us the ability to give it away for free, so we want to give away 1 million copies of the audiobook. That's one of our goals. Thank you.
Cool. So hopefully we'll help give away at least a few thousand. Scaling.com, SCALING.com/audiobook, AUDIOBOOK.
AUDIOBOOK. I was impressed. That's good. Scaling.com/audiobook. So thank you. Yeah, go get the book. Go get the
go
audiobook
book.
for
And
free.
we'll put it in the description later. We didn't do it now, but we'll put it in the description later too as
beautiful.
well. So appreciate you.
So
Thank you for
enjoy
that.
the book.
It was I finished it in 2 days. It was so good. Wow. So good.
It's a banger. I think
it is.
How would you describe its difference from 10x? From your experience.
Yeah, it's because to me 10x is more of a high-level philosophical perspective of scaling, but scaling, the science of scaling, literally is the science. You're going into the tactics, strategies, principles, and essence. These are the things you do if you're serious about scaling, not just curious. Yeah. That's how I would describe it.
It takes a curiosity to a science.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great. So
beautiful.
Montrella, you have a question for Dr. Ben?
Yes, and first of all, I want to thank both of you gentlemen. You have definitely bent my brain this morning.
What's one thing that really, before you ask your question, what's one thing that's really stuck out to you?
You're going to put me on the spot.
Just one thing. Just one thing
that
stuck
you got to
out.
let go, which is related to my question. You just got to let go in order to step into that identity that Dr. Myron keeps talking about. And that is tough.
If I may be so bold, you said that is tough. May I state it more accurately? Is that okay?
Of course.
It feels tough. That's not the same as it being tough. It feels tough. And here's why I made that distinction. Because words are not just a communication tool. They are the window through which we see the world. If I tell myself that it's tough, then I'm going to behave as if it's tough. If I tell myself it feels tough, then that's just a feeling. And I can tell myself what we tell ourselves in golf all the time. Feels are not reals. So just because it feels that way doesn't mean it's real that way. So anyway, but go ahead.
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. And my question is tied directly to that. Dr. Ben, if you were in a service-based business, I'm basically a therapist, and I do make multiple six figures, but I work harder than a dog because some of these dogs are living a life. What would you do? Like, how do you get out of that while maintaining your livelihood?
Yeah, that's the tricky part for people, is that you're going to have to let it go, and you're going to have to give up a good chunk of certainty for a season of uncertainty while you systemize the new path to scale. And that season of uncertainty, its length depends on how fast you raise your floor. Some people raise their floor very slow. They keep going back and forth. So giving yourself a goal and thinking about a path that fits more who you are and who your future self will be, and thinking about what that path would be, what that goal would be, would likely require at least largely letting go of your current private practice. You might keep a portion of it to stay in the game, or you go into a different game. But yeah, you're going to have a season of uncertainty.
Yes. And seasons of uncertainty are okay. Like you don't have to feel certain. You don't even have to be certain about the path. You just have to be certain about the payoff. Like, that's what causes us to let go. Like, if I can own the knowingness that this is going to work, you're a service provider, you're a therapist, you do therapy probably the way most therapists do therapy, because most businesses are based on analogy and not on first principles. Like, if you ask yourself the question, though, which potentially you have, but probably you haven't, if you ask yourself the question, if I were going to build a therapy practice that did multiple 8 figures or multiple 7 figures a year, how would I have to build that? And then start at the end, that end objective, and then work your way backwards. That's thinking from first principles and not thinking from analogy. I think Dr. Ben would attest to this. There's nobody in the business coaching space that does what I do. Do you know why nobody does what I do? Because I didn't copy anybody. Okay, when I'm teaching my clients, like how to sell premium value offers, the first question that I ask is, how much money do you want to get paid when you do this thing? And some people say, well, what's the relevance? Well, what's the relevance? That's the most relevant question. How much do you desire to get paid every time you do the thing? And if your answer is, well, most people make $300 an hour, $700 an hour. That has nothing, that's a bad premise. So I'm not a therapist. So just so y'all know. And I don't play one on television. Okay. Somebody wants to coach with me, I charge $40,000 an hour.
Oh.
How did you come up with $40,000 an hour? I made it up. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, what does that mean? I made it up. Here's what it means. I don't like one-on-one coaching. I think one-on-one coaching is highly inefficient for me and highly ineffective for you. So watch this. If you're going to make me do something I don't want to do, I'm going to make you pay. Say that. Say, is that where you got your price from? That's where I got my price from. And I also know that if somebody coaches with me for an hour and they can afford to pay $40,000, they already have something in place that I can show them how to make more than $400,000 in that 1 hour that they coach with me. Because how I come up with my prices is I figure out the payoff the people that I'm serving desire to have, how much it's worth, and how much it's costing them not to get it. And let's say that price is $400,000. I divide that by 10, and that's how much I charge. Does that make sense? So you need to figure out a new pattern of doing therapy versus just doing what everybody's always done because that's what everybody's always done. It just doesn't, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Right? Does that make
Well, so just a quick thought to push on that, because it reminded me of this conversation from before, which is defining yourself, which actually fits with identity a lot. But how can you do what you do different from every form of therapy or healing or psychology? Like, what could you do? Mm-hmm. And in what way could that be done in a business model?
Well, I want to abandon therapy.
Okay.
Because
So what would you rather do?
Coach.
You're in the catbird seat. You're sitting in the catbird. That's a Texas colloquialism, which means you're in the right place at the right time. Okay. You're already a therapist, so you know how to have conversations with people. You're a psychologist, psychiatrist.
Licensed clinical therapist. Social worker.
You're a licensed clinical therapist. Okay. So you already know how to have conversations with people. You just need to figure out, how can I help have conversations with higher level people who, right? Because it's who, not how. So how can I serve a better who? And by a better who, a who that can afford to pay whatever I charge. And the way you do that is by solving bigger problems for people, for a bigger pool of people with much bigger problems and much deeper pockets. So take your skill set and apply it to a different market segment. You're not gonna make way more money serving the same people you serve now. So here's what's really cool though. When you figure out who you really are, what that's gonna do for you is that's gonna cause you to become signal for people who are looking for what you have to offer them.
Got it.
Like, right? So people find me and say, hey, I wanna pay you $375,000 for a year of coaching. They find me, not people I'm looking for. I'm not looking for anybody. I'm just being me. And being you will attract the right people. Is that helpful-ish?
Absolutely. Thank you both.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike over here, Alicia, and then we'll go back to Breezy over here. Okay. Clearly. Okay.
Thank you. My question is, let's say you've gained clarity on how to raise your floor. And this could very much be a limiting belief, and we'll speak to that. What if you make the decision, cut off all other options, but you're not able to fund, based off of where you are, what it would take to be able to move towards that higher floor? You have a very concerned look on your face, Myron.
No, I'm not. I'm waiting to see what Dr. Ben says.
You are talking to a leverage master, but there are paths and partners to your goal that are going to come in very different forms than you're used to, right? And so, but you don't understand those principles, or your future hasn't needed you to gain those skills.
Your future hasn't needed you to gain those skills.
Right. So
Okay.
Myron knows how to. If Myron needed funding, he could figure out how to do it. Even if he had 100 times bigger future than anything he's ever done, there might be games he hasn't played yet for what he'll call leverage, but he would go figure those out. And so, your old ways of getting funding would be insufficient. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But so pathways thinking is very creative, and partnerships. There's different ways of getting funding. Obviously, you're wanting to turn your business into funding, but in the short run, there's different ways of getting funding.
Yes.
That sounds
And one of those ways is just find somebody with a big problem and then sell them something for a big price. That sounds like an oversimplification. I know it does. I'll give you all an example. So I'm in this mastermind, and I go to Boise, Idaho every now and then, and I'm in Boise, Idaho, like with all these other entrepreneurs, and we're there for a couple of days. So I'm there one time, minding my own business, as I usually do. No, y'all are laughing. I'm serious. Like, I'm I sit in the back. If you ever saw me at a conference that I'm not speaking at, I'm in the back in one of the corners. I'm not attracting any attention to myself. I'm there to do. I'd be just as happy being invisible, because naturally I'm an introvert who operates as an extrovert. That's another conversation for a different day.
Same.
Right, right. So you get it completely. And so I'm thinking, well, I'm flying back to Tampa, and at that time it was me and my videographer, Jose. Like, we were coming back to Tampa, and we're on this big old Global Express jet. It'll hold 16 people, right? It's huge. And so I made an offer to some people there. I said, hey, you going back to Florida? Well, one guy comes to me and says, hey, if you got any room on the jet, I'd love to have a seat. I said, cool. I got some room on the jet. And here's what I'm going to do for you. So I turned me going back to Tampa into an offer, because I was going to go back to Tampa anyway. I call that an anyway offer. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Tampa anyway. So I made this offer to this guy. I said, tell you what, you pay me $25,000. I'll let you fly back with me on the jet, and I'll teach you how I get paid to fly private while you're paying to fly commercial. He's like, well, first he came to me before he even asked me that. He's like, yeah, man, I can't believe these people. They want me to fly all the way to Seattle, Washington, then to fly back to Orlando. That's insane. I mean, fly back to Tampa. That's insane. I said, well, yeah, it is insane. Or you could just pay me 25 grand and come with me, and I'll teach you how I do this. He's like, let me think about it. Okay, wires me the money. Then, so for those of you who don't understand sales, let me teach you something really cool about sales. The best time to make a sale is right after you've made a sale. And so I said, well, I already made, I'm already getting, I was going to fly back to Tampa whether this guy paid me $25,000 or not. I might as well make this offer to a couple other people. So I made the offer to a couple other people, and a couple other people took me up on it. So I raised, if you want to call it raising capital, I raised $75,000 while I was going back home, to the home I was going to go back to anyway. And so most of you have not trained your brain to see opportunities to make offers. Did you hear what I just said? Most of you have not trained your brain to see opportunities to make offers. Therefore, you think you lack money, or you think you lack funding, but what you really lack is awareness. You're not aware of the problem. You're not aware of the people with the problem. You're not aware of the fact that people with that kind of problem are happy to spend a large amount of money to solve it. So you're not lacking access to abundance, you're lacking awareness of the access you have. The difference between me and you, my skill set may be sharper because I've been doing it longer than many of you in this room. I won't say all of you, but many of you in this room. My skill set may be like sharper than yours. But one of the reasons it's sharper is because I see the opportunities to make offers. Somebody once said, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Is it okay if I massage that a little bit? If all you have is an offer, everything looks like an opportunity. even obstacles look like opportunities.
One thing, and your question's insanely important, and it's really where everyone gets stuck, is that you have a job or a business and you want to shift over, but you don't know how to financially bridge that gap. What would you say? I mean, you largely just said it in terms of making an offer, but what would you say to that, Myron, if someone's in a situation, in a business, or in a situation that is essentially funding them, and they know it's below the floor? What moves would you make as they're making that transition to get above the floor to the new model?
Well, first I'd recognize, and this is going to sound somewhat contradictory, but sometimes truth is paradoxical, is recognize that you don't have to do something to fix it. And what I mean by that is, you don't have to. Here's what I would do. I would make a decision. And I know that sounds so cliche, but here's one of the things that I discovered. And I discovered this long before I was rich. So don't blame this on the fact that Myron has a lot of money, because this Myron discovered when Myron didn't have a lot of money. Okay. And that is, when I make up my mind to do something, circumstances align themselves in my favor. When I say I can't, I don't have, it's not available. I can't do it. When I say I can't, it feels impossible. But if I take I can't and take that dead-end statement and turn it into an open-ended question, like, how can I? If I turn I can't into how can I, my mind will go to work on that, and it will keep searching until it finds an answer. See, anybody who's worked with me, and there are a couple of you in here who've worked with me some, anybody who's worked with me, you know that I teach way more mindset. I teach a lot of skill set. I teach almost no tool set. Like, somebody else teach you how to use the tools. I don't know how to run ads. I don't build funnels. Because I understand that I don't have to. Right? I teach mostly mindset. Why? Because if you teach people what to do and what tools to use to do it, and you don't teach them how to become the person who will do it, it doesn't matter that they know how. They're not going to do it. There are a lot of people who know how and still don't do. But, don't miss this part. When you teach somebody how to become the person who can do it, even if you don't teach them how, they will figure it out. That's what he means when he says you use the future to determine what to eliminate in the present. You think you have to know how, if you think that going from where you are to where you'd like to be is going to make sense along the way, you are delusional. It'll never make sense looking through the windshield of experience. It will only make sense looking through the rearview mirror of experience. And if you're trying to make it make sense while you're driving down the road, good luck. It's literally like, I used to live in Pennsylvania, Dr. Ben. If I said, I'm going to Pennsylvania, ask me when I'm leaving.
When are you leaving?
I'm leaving Tampa when I can see the Pennsylvania state line. When do I get to Pennsylvania? Never. Why? Because I've decided that I'm not going to do anything until I can see everything. But the reality is, I don't get to see anything until I do something. Here's what's really interesting. Between Tampa and Pennsylvania, most of that space between Tampa and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I can see neither the Florida state line or the Pennsylvania state line. It's my addiction to a sense of certainty based on familiarity that robs me of the opportunity to move forward.
What do you take from all that?
So,
That's beauty.
thank you.
You just have to go.
Yeah.
He said something powerful in the last session.
And you
about
have to go
how
before you know.
often you won't be able to find that path until you raise your floor, which takes commitment and courage.
And it
People
takes
want
commitment and
confidence.
courage.
They don't want commitment and courage.
Yes, and commitment and courage have to come before you have certainty. They have to come while you're uncertain. Peter had to get out of the boat while the storm was still raging. So, anyway. Another question? This gentleman back here with the epic beard. Indeed, indeed. You got to turn the mic on. Just push a button. You just push it and hold it. There we go.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, cool. We're good now. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job. Thank you. Thank
you.
you for all the information. I feel like we've been dancing around something for a little while. We'd love to hear, you, Dr. Ben, speak a little bit more about it. This is in 10X. Just the principle and difference between needing and wanting. I'd love to hear more
What do you
about.
mean we've been dancing around it?
Well, I mean, we're talking about things that are kind of still like in root. I feel like needing and wanting is kind of somewhat of the root, right? God is, I feel like, the deeper root, but we're talking about worldly matters. So I mean by that is just the principles, what you learned through doing that book with Dan in terms of, I guess maybe what he was referring to in the understanding of needing to do something and wanting to do it. I'd love to hear what you learned from, I guess, writing that book and talking about that principle, because I feel like it's going to connect a lot of dots of things we talked about today.
Sure. Yeah, that's a very interesting topic. I feel like what Dan meant in that subject is if you think you need to do something, and it's been a minute, honestly, since I've even thought fully about that. Wanting to do something is obviously a very different energy than needing to do something. If you feel like you need to do something, it's probably going to be, in my mind, it's probably going to be a lesser goal. You're doing it because you think you need it. And so it's going to lead you to doing a lot of things that are the wrong things. So,
While you're thinking about that, can I share something?
Please, share more.
So one of the things that I noticed in my entrepreneurial journey that really shifted for me when I stopped selling to people who needed the transformation and started selling to the people who wanted it. Like prosperity opened like the Red Sea for the children of Israel. Here's one of the difference. People who want something are internally motivated by the thing they desire. People who need something, sometimes the thing that they want the most is to keep needing it so that they can get the attention that comes from being a needer. And so like even like I love the fact that you said, we were talking about worldly things, but we have to understand that there is a what's it called? A mirror display relationship between like the spirit realm and the physical realm, right? And if you never if we don't forget that heaven gives earth meaning, because earth without heaven is meaningless, right?
That's straight up Viktor Frankl meta.
Right. Well, but it goes to another level because earth gives heaven expression, because heaven without earth is expressionless, and even if it is expressed, who would know, right? And if you think about it, everything that we experience in life is a picture of, it's a microcosm of that. And I have to ask myself, okay, is this the meaning or is this the expression? Now, maybe you don't think like that. Maybe you do. I don't know. Clearly, I probably do. So my mind is a microcosm of heaven and my experience of life, but my body is a microcosm of earth. Earth exists to serve a heavenly purpose. My body exists to serve my mind. When I get them out of order, And my fleshly appetites are so strong that I'm now using my mind to find ways to satisfy the desires of the flesh. Now I've got the master serving the servant. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to focus more on what you desire. I like the word desire better than want, and I'll tell you why, because I'm like, words matter. Don't do it, Mary, don't do it, okay. So I almost chased a rabbit. So words matter, and when I understand that the word want is a double entendre, it means lack, but it also means desire. My subconscious mind doesn't know which one it means when I use the word want. In fact, when I was a little kid, I learned the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I thought, when I was a little kid, well, if he's my shepherd, why don't I want him? Because I only knew that want meant desire when I was a child. But as an adult, I know now that want also means lack. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. Right? Now, the word want means lack or desire. But the word desire only means desire. Well, what does desire mean? De comes from the Latin root of or from. Zire is from the Latin root sire, which means father. So the word desire means of the father or from the father. So I like the word desire more than I like the word want because it's clearer. In the words of Warren Wiersbe, he said, nothing becomes dynamic until it becomes clear. The reason most people's lives lack a dynamic aspect is because their thinking lacks clarity and their communication lacks clarity. So I think that all of our desires that we have, whether they be worldly or otherwise, are desires that God gave us. God, like, how do I know that God gave me a desire to enjoy my life? Because that's what the book of Ecclesiastes tells me. For a man to eat and to drink and enjoy the fruit of his labor, this is the gift of God. So God's the one that gave me that desire. And as long as I satisfy it rightly, there's nothing wrong with that desire. We make the mistake of buying into the lie that there's something wrong with having a desire just because it's not some heavenly spiritual purpose. God is the one that gave us the desire. He's the one that, my desire for living a nice life, taking nice vacations, driving a nice car, living in a nice house, wearing nice clothes and eating nice food, that is all a God-given desire. And he gave me the desire so that I would focus on that desire to the point where I realize I have to do more valuable things for other people in order for me to deserve what I desire. Right? But he also set it up in such a way that I'm pretty much already doing everything, 100% of everything I can do, who I am right now. The thing God cares about the most is me becoming more. So when I attempt to do more and can't, I stub my toe on my inability, I bump my head on my insufficiency, I finally yield to the thing that God cares about the most, and I say, okay, I'm going to become more. And when I become more, then I can do more. And then when I do more, I automatically deserve to have more. The desire to have and the desire to become in a close relationship with God are not in conflict with each other necessarily. We make them in conflict with each other, but they are very much in concert with each other if we apply them the way that God designed. So, was that helpful-ish?
That was amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yes, ma'am. The lady right over here, right next to you. Tell me your name again, sister. You're the nurse that wrote the book.
What they don't tell you in nursing school.
Yes.
Yes.
But what's your name again?
Jessica.
Jessica. Yes, talk to me, Jessica.
Jessica is my name. So here's my question. When you think about an impossible goal in isolation, like it's this one thing, you're focusing on it, you're taking those steps, you're eliminating the things. Where I end up getting confused and bumping my head is I'm also a wife and I have an impossible wife goal. And I'm also a mother and I have an impossible mother goal. And I also have this book and I have this impossible book goal. And then all of a sudden, my one simple little head with two little dots is like one head with like 5 dots on each thing.
So,
and
definitely optimizing too many things. This is one thing that, so am I a health expert?
I don't know, are
I'm
you?
not. No. I'm a business psychologist teaching you scaling principles. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people take principles in one domain, and yes, they can often apply in other domains, but I'm very strictly teaching you how to scale a business. Of course, those principles apply in other matters, but don't try to over-apply them to every area of your life. That then literally will defeat its purpose. So one of the things that I would invite you to do is think about one goal that simplifies all the rest.
Boom.
Amazing.
No, just let me give an example.
That's so good.
So I was in a PhD program and brand new 3 foster kids, and I wanted to become a professional author. Firstly, I actually just wanted to write books. PhD student, no website, no platform, period. But we had just gotten these 3 foster kids. I'm doing PhD classes, and I want to be an author, but I thought, what's a singular goal that would solve everything I'm trying to do? Because I don't want to be in the PhD process where I'm like a research assistant and making zero money. I do want to provide well for my family. I want to be a great husband, a great father. And so I thought, and back then it was like, I want to get a 6-figure book deal, because at that point I could then provide for my family, I could be an awesome husband, and I could be doing what I want to do, which is writing books. And so that one goal solved largely the core areas of everything I was trying to do. But that one goal was also an impossible goal from where I sat, because I did have no website, and I found out that getting a 6-figure book deal was like the 1% of 1% of book deals. And so because that goal was so high, a lot of the acceptable paths to simply being an author were no longer acceptable. Because I want to get a 6-figure book contract within 3 years, only 1 or 2 pathways could get me there in that fast of time. At that time, Medium.com was a great blogging platform. I became a very big blogger on there, learned skills, was able to become a professional author. Within literally 18 months of that, I got a $220,000 book deal. And so, but that one goal simplified my focus. So what you were doing was you were making it hard to focus.
Correct.
So just use it as a tool. What's one goal that can make it
So good.
easier?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was,
Don't have an impossible goal for literally 12 areas of your life. Like,
Right.
have one that
Okay.
simplifies what you're doing.
so
Thank you
good.
so much.
So good. So good. Right in front of you, Eurydice. Then we're going to come with, yes, ma'am. Then we'll come to you.
Thank you so much, both of you. Today has been incredible. For someone who has been service focused, how I really want to make the shift to being like Myron. And I know you're going to say, then just do it and hit me,
What?
but don't hit me.
No, I wouldn't hit you. I would say don't be like Myron. Be like you.
I get that, but not because I'm focusing on my
Right.
the way I say the words. Listening to you all today has been very significant because I've been very focused on service, but I also need the wealth portion to take care of my family. When you have worked as a business psychologist, how have you helped people to make that shift and to have a different perspective? Thank you.
Specifically, different perspective on what? You said you've been in the services. What are you trying to make a shift to?
To not, usually we work very hard for the same base salary that we've always done. And as I've retired, after my retirement from the Army, my focus was always, well, they need help, I'll help them. And I think you said earlier today, if you don't charge them for the fee that they're providing, why would they value it? So for people who have had difficulty in doing that, how do you help them as you work with them to get them to be able to do that more
I would say
efficiently?
Myron is much better at teaching people how to make money than I do. But when you have a much different and a bigger future, naturally it's going to take you on a different path than what you were doing in the past. For me, I wasn't planning on becoming an entrepreneur. That became honestly maybe the only viable path for the scale of things I wanted to accomplish. And so the goal determines the path, the goal determines the vehicle. And your old models, your old assumptions, the old pathways just don't work. And so let the size of your future, let the future that you have provide you with options. And then go find those options. There's a lot of different options. I'm not saying you want to do this, but you could go create a fund. You could create this, you could do that. There's a lot of different vehicles to get there. To Myron's point, which one can you do the best? What's the game you want to play? For me, just as an example, Myron has a phenomenal YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is going to be an insane vehicle for what he wants to accomplish. I let go of my YouTube channel because it's not who I want to be. It's not the game I want to play, even if it's an amazing tool. It's not the game I want to play. Even though I could see huge benefits from that tool, I'm going to play this tool, and this tool is going to get me more than I want and more, and it fits with who I want to be, who I want my future self to be, and it has insane leverage. Then there's leverage over here that Myron can't see, but it doesn't fit with who he wants to be, or else he would have found it.
Right. That's what he just said, or else he would have found it. The decision that we make is what creates the perspective, the discernment that we have. And if I don't make the decision, I don't deserve the discernment. Like, the reason you can't see so much of what's already there in your path, so much of what's already there in front of you, is because you haven't made a decision yet. You're waiting until you can see it to make the decision, but the decision, like, it's waiting for you to make the decision so it can show up. There's so, like, I've got, my brother Jeff is over there, my brother Rob may be here somewhere, he was here earlier. Like, my brothers remember when I looked like a dude that was just lost in the wilderness of wondering, like, what my life is gonna be. And now, all of a sudden, everybody's like, Myron. I'm like, y'all need to quit tripping. I was as confused as you were until I made a decision. And once I made a decision, it gave me clarity. It told me what to focus. The decision told me what to focus on. It told me the direction to go. It told me what to say no to. So, is that helpful? I wasn't fussing at you a year to
Well,
say.
That's why I said you were going to hit me, and that you were fussing. But
If
it's okay.
if you remember this story, I just want to show you this because this is super key. This guy, Xavier, remember I told you his story? And he wanted to get his law firm to $100 million. He did not know what that meant. And his business was not the vehicle to do that until, it doesn't always have to be time frame, but until he had a proper goal. A goal properly set is halfway reached. Once he actually started to solve that, it was not very hard for him to figure out the business model that could get him there. But he had never been solving it before. So you have to start with, who do you want to be? Who's your future self? What does that look like? Be specific. I would say be at scale. And then say, what is the path and who are the people who can help you get there?
So good. So good. This young
Thank
man
you
right in
so
front of
much.
you. This might be the last question we have time for today. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Thank you for passing me the mic, and thank you for letting me, allowing me to be here.
My pleasure.
I've read your book from Trashman to Cashman.
Sure.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I wanted to know what exactly was your inspiration to start your first business, and how I could use an inspiration of my own to start my first.
Oh, that's a great question. How old are you?
I'm 14.
Wow. Let's go. 14 years old. So my first inspiration was when I was about 16 years old. My dad came home from work and said, I'm not doing this anymore. And he said, I'm not working for other people anymore. And I thought to myself, what are we going to do for food? Right? And he just started doing for himself what he did for other people. I was like, oh, so that made me aware. That gave me a new awareness of the fact that you don't have to have a job to make a living. Oh. Well, usually when I had jobs, there were things about it that I didn't like. Okay? They had this, they paid me less than I felt like I was worth. They made me show up when I'd rather be at home.
You mentioned the thing about time in your book.
What's that?
You mentioned the thing about time in that book as well, about how time is a lot more
Valuable than money. Yes, time is a lot more valuable than money. And they had these things I was allergic to, called bosses. I didn't even have any outfits that matched the boss. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So I realized that if they were paying me, they could tell me what to do, and I didn't like that. I am a very autonomous. I've always been this way. If I believe something is the right thing to do, I just want to do that. Regardless of who tells me to do something else, right? And I've always been that way. And so I saw that there were people who had businesses, who had money freedom. Money freedom isn't the ultimate freedom. The ultimate freedom is nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to hide, nothing to gain. But if you don't have money freedom, it's hard to have that other freedom.
Right.
And I met somebody in 1985 who wasn't particularly talented. He wasn't particularly effervescent. He was just a regular guy in Lowell, Indiana, of all places. And he was making $10,000 a month in 1985. And you know what that told me? It's possible. $10,000 a month in 1985 was more than $100,000 a month now. And it told me, oh, this is a thing that people do. He was the first person I didn't know anybody made that much money. I didn't know athletes, I didn't know actors, I didn't know singers, I didn't know anybody made $10,000. Like $10,000 in a month never showed up in the same sentence for me before I met that guy. And so just seeing that it was possible for somebody made me believe that it was possible for me, because that's what my parents used to tell me. Anything, anybody, if somebody else can do it, you can do it. So it can be done. And so I just believed that. And I kept working towards it. I'm gonna give you some advice as a 14-year-old though. As a 14-year-old entrepreneur, start doing something as a business now. Don't wait until you're 16, don't wait until you're 15, don't wait until you're 14 and a half. Here's why. You have an advantage that is evaporating, and that is that you are a young person. And older people love to encourage young people who are doing something positive. So if you have got some kind of business idea, start selling it now. And ask lots of grown people to buy it from you. Don't be shocked when they do.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, good stuff. Okay, Candy had a question. Candy, can you do it in 30 seconds? Okay.
This is amazing. I already fired 3 people on my team, so.
Now they're going to come looking for us.
They were below the floor?
They were below the floor.
Yes, I'm super excited about this. So my question is...
By the way, that is one of the things that holds entrepreneurs back, is that they're not willing to do that.
Yeah.
That's one of the primary things that stops people from scaling, is the pain of doing that.
Yep, I just did it.
Good.
Like an hour ago. So that was awesome. My question is about avoiding and approaching. So you have like the difference, like when you avoid something, it's like a listed goal and the other one is approaching. So I get myself in between both of them. So how you can actually stop avoiding so you can just focus on approaching?
So big. It's so big. When you're in avoidance mode, you're not... First off, you have a future you don't want, and you're spending a lot of time with a future you don't want. And so I think that almost goes back to wanting versus needing a little bit. But when you're on full approach mode, it goes back to growth mindset versus fixed mindset. You're willing to expose yourself. You're willing to admit when you don't have things right. You're willing to actually let things go. Like, things just move so much faster when you have a singular goal and you're just boom. You don't need to avoid disappointing people, which you didn't. You just did. A lot of people are in an avoidance mode for a long time on raising the floor, right? So just raise the floor. So just know what you want. Use your future as the tool, and as you just let that happen, you are on approach mode. That's how you do it. And so whenever you have stuff you're trying to avoid, just know that you're below the floor. When you're trying to avoid things, you're below the floor. Let those things go. Let the future shape your path.
I love that. I love that, how you identify avoiding being below the floor. Now
when you're in
know.
avoidance mode, you're below the floor. You're trying to avoid something from happening.
So good. So a couple things, y'all. One, public service announcement. If you on YouTube see a thing that says inspired by Myron Golden, blah, 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 and it's got some raspy Myron Golden almost sounding voice, and it's got an image but no moving picture, that is not me. That is an AI cloned voice of me using my name to probably con you out of money. So, don't even watch those people. If you see them, report them. We've reported a bunch of them and had them taken down. But my fear is, for the people who watch YouTube, is that they're not going to be able to know the difference between who's real and who's not. If you don't see me and I'm moving and talking, I don't put audio with a moving background on YouTube. It's not me. And I don't want you to start listening to some of these things because they sound good and they're saying stuff that I would never say, but it sounds similar to something I might say. It's not me. Don't send those people any money. Don't buy any crypto scams from them. Don't do, that's not me. Okay, that's public service announcement. tomorrow on our Bible study channel at 10 a.m. we will be live. 9 a.m. we will be in the building tomorrow morning. For those of you who are here, 9 a.m. for Bible study. And I'm going to do something that's like a follow-up of today, tomorrow, for Bible study. That's all I'm going to say. Like I've been thinking about it for a couple of days, even before we had this conversation, and it's so in line with what we talked about today. So for those of you who want to join us on our Bible study with Myron Golden channel, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Ben Hardy came to hang out with us today, and today is his wife's birthday. So,
We're gonna, yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Fun
So,
night.
so.
I think she went to a theme park with our
Yeah.
little kids.
So yeah, she's having a great day, but he's gonna go. Like, I know y'all want to catch up with him, but please don't hold him hostage. Like, he's served us so well today on such a high level. It has been remarkable, and so hopefully, by the grace of God, I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. All right, doors will open at 8:45 tomorrow. All right, see y'all. It's been great hanging out with y'all on YouTube. Bye for now.